trust me on this one, you don't want to go down this road because you may never be able to return.
More people are dying on heroin overdoses than natural causes. Did you hear that? Tonight, a look at the problem of heroin and the fight to save our families. The problem, it's bigger than you think, probably closer than you know. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Tricia Mackey.
And I'm Scott Schneider. Over the next 45 minutes, you're not going to like everything you see, but this is a topic that simply cannot be ignored. Even if no one in your family ever touches it, this drug can still touch you in many ways. It's not in dark alleys and in dangerous neighborhoods. It's in each and every community, on the highways and in the suburbs.
And the problem, it's exploding all around us. Tonight, our Ben Katko spoke with a family who says heroin turned their lives completely upside down. He has this story live from Alexandria.
Good evening, guys. By now, you know heroin is everywhere, tightening its grip on our big cities and our small communities like this one. It's forcing families to bury their loved ones far too soon and then carry on without them. This vibrant 7-year-old Callie has a lot of growing up left to do. She'll have to do it, though, without her mother.
You always hope for the best. You don't want anything bad to happen to your child, but never think that it's never going to happen to you. It can happen to anybody.
2 weeks ago, her mother, Katie Strobel, died from a heroin overdose.
It was a sad day for us because, you have to tell a 7-year-old that they no longer have a mom.
This family is proof that the epidemic is far-reaching and changing the scope of families.
We got custody of Callie about 4 years ago. That's how long we've had her now.
They wanted to get her out of an environment surrounded by heroin, but the hope was that Callie's new living situation wouldn't last this long.
When we first got her, my thing was to, hopefully one day, it would all straighten itself out, and then we were able to get her back to her mom, and it would all work out for her.
The effects of addiction don't stop there for this little girl. Her dad, Josh, is in rehab fighting the very same battle.
We're hoping and praying that he will turn it around and come back and be a father to his daughter, and that's our goal in life.
Until that time comes, her grandparents are forced to step in and play mom and dad. They're taking her to father-daughter dances and karate and basketball practice.
I want everybody to beat the devil. I'm done with the death and destruction that this is doing to families.
Now, last month, we did get some updated numbers from a heroin task force here in northern Kentucky. Those numbers reported by St. Elizabeth's emergency rooms showed through September that ODs had almost reached 900. We're live tonight in Alexandria. Ben Katko, Fox 19 Now.
Ben, thank you very much. It is not just those taking heroin and their families that are falling victim. Just this week, Kenton County officials revealed that this man, Kenneth Hartsock, had heroin, fentanyl, and THC in his blood when his car slammed into another, killing both himself and, tragically, 3 innocent victims back in September. Prosecutors say this Whitewater Township grandmother, Kathy Huff, overdosed in a bathtub. Her infant grandson found floating in the water. They say she admitted to snorting heroin while babysitting on the 3rd of October. These are just 2 examples, tragic examples of heroin's innocent victims.
Fighting heroin in your neighborhood? It can be as easy as a simple phone call. All around Hamilton County, there are billboards encouraging people to call law enforcement if they see people dealing in their community, and it is working. Fox 19 Now's Michael Baldwin has the story.
So over the next couple of weeks, you're going to be seeing new flyers that look just like this one. It was just approved by the Hamilton County Heroin Task Force. The campaign is called Not in My Neighborhood, and it encourages people to call if they see heroin dealers. That campaign is a takeoff on this one. There are several billboards strategically placed around the city like this one near the Cincinnati Gardens. It encourages people to call police if they suspect a heroin dealer might be selling on their streets. They're known as the Renew billboards. Renew stands for Regional Enforcement Narcotics Unit. We weren't able to get an answer to how much the campaign has cost, but the information gathered, officials tell me, is priceless.
People are calling, and I think there's this urge for people to want to get that information. They want to help. It's just a matter of it's a matter of they're not sure where to get that help, so they are calling the tip lines.
That's Newton Police Chief Tom Sinan. He's head of the Hamilton County Drug Task Force. He told me the billboards are working. In fact, the task force is currently investigating 50 cases. Those cases include 10 heroin overdose deaths in September and 11 heroin overdose deaths in October.
and they're trying to track these deaths back to the dealer. And that's where these tip lines come in, because it's not like you have a dealer literally on every corner. There's groups of dealers, there's pockets of dealers, and by the public getting that information out, sending those tips in, we can share that, get our resources together, and hopefully get the dealers off the street. That's the ultimate goal.
The task force has only been around since June, and it combines the resources of law enforcement agencies. Synan said heroin dealers can use these billboards as a sign, not only that people are giving information, but that their time is coming.
We're coming after you. I can tell you right now, you don't even know that you're being watched. I can tell you that there is a group of several law enforcement agencies that know you, know where you're at, and it's a matter of once we build that probable cause, we will be getting you.
In a related note, the Hamilton County Commissioners just approved more money to get more Narcan. They say they want to make sure that every officer in the county has at least one unit to battle this overwhelming disease. In Cincinnati, by the end of October alone, they used more than 2,000 Narcan units. In Cincinnati, I'm Michael Baldwin, Fox 19 now.
Thanks, Michael. We went to the Hamilton County morgue, where the coroner says there have been a steady increase in deaths due to heroin overdoses. Dr. Lakshmi Samarkar, who you just saw in Michael's story, says it's a community problem. Everyone has to get involved to save our families.
Heroin is on every corner. It's in every neighborhood. You know, you may not recognize, if you live in an affluent neighborhood and you're used to seeing BMWs and Mercedes and Audis running around. Well, dealers are smart, you know, and it's not like they're short on money. They go out and get those nice cars and they drive around the neighborhoods and nobody blinks. This affects people of every economic level, social status, educational status, which is what's mind-boggling to me, because even really, really, really smart people are succumbing to this.
Dr. Samarco says it is time everyone takes responsibility. Hear that? Take responsibility. Have tough conversations. Do it right now with your loved ones before it's too late.
You know, from rural towns to wealthy suburbs, the heroin epidemic, it's hit all of Ohio. Here's a staggering stat. Attorney General Mike DeWine says on average, 23 Ohioans die each and every week from the drug. Here's more from the AG.
Well, this is the worst epidemic in drugs I've ever seen. I've been doing this for a long time, starting as a county prosecuting attorney. I think what's unique about this heroin epidemic is it's so pervasive, it's everywhere. Geographically, it's as likely to be in Brown County as it is in the city of Cincinnati. One thing that I think does work is when citizens in a community get so sick of it that they decide that they're going to do something from a grassroots point of view. And what you have to do is they have to pull everybody together. It has to be the churches, it has to be the business community, it has to be the educators, people as far as you know, doctors and nurses. It is so very important for local law enforcement to have Narcan. You know, our emergency squads carry it, but sometimes the police, frankly, are the first ones on the scene. If we're seeing any kind of slowdown in the number of deaths, and I'm not sure we are, but if we are, it's due exclusively to the fact that Narcan is so much used today, and we can save a lot of lives. I hope within that period of time that we've made dramatic reductions in the number of people who are dying from heroin overdoses, and over the long run, you know, reduce this demand for heroin. It's not just, you know, we're not going to arrest our way out of this problem. We have to make some cultural changes, and we have to do better with education. We have to do better with prevention.
Police across the tri-state battling the problem of heroin. Ahead, how local law enforcement agencies are fighting to save our families.
Federal officials are also taking note of the heroin problem in our area. The Centers for Disease Control came to Cincinnati just last week to take a closer look at heroin's impact here, especially with the introduction of heroin laced with fentanyl.
We've seen an increase in deaths related to heroin laced with fentanyl, which is a narcotic much, much, much more powerful than heroin.
I lost everything. Everything. I'm sleeping in an abandoned shed.
Local officials are hoping the CDC team can take what they've learned here and offer more data and more resources.
So throughout tonight's special, we're going to throw some pretty dire stats at you. But while the numbers behind the proliferation of heroin use in the tri-state are depressing, not all the news is bad news. Earlier today, I spoke with Ohio Senator Sherrod Brown, who says there are places where people can go to get the help they need.
I visited the Joseph House in Cincinnati not too long ago and saw the kinds of things they've done for veterans, homeless vets, but often homeless vets because they came back and they were addicted to drugs after leaving the service. You know, they knew how to do the drug treatment. If you can get people in drug treatment, you can solve a good bit of this.
Take a look at video. This is Senator Brown while he was visiting the Joseph House, which, by the way, offers housing and inpatient chemical dependency treatment to homeless veterans that they need to maintain a lifelong commitment to recovery and to thrive in their community. Lawmakers have been working for years to battle this growing epidemic. Meanwhile, in Kentucky, Casey's Law was enacted in 2004. That law allows parents, family members, or even friends of an addicted person to intervene and to request court-ordered addiction treatment for their loved ones.
It certainly gives that person a chance to recover and see what recovery can be, because a lot of people at that point in time really don't see any hope.
Unfortunately, the law came too late for Charlotte Wethington's son, Casey, who died from an overdose back in 2002. He was just 23 years of age. Since their son's death, Charlotte and her husband have become strong advocates for heroin education and treatment, and they've refurbished Casey's old 1967 VW bus to spread the word.
I don't think the average person realizes who they're on the roads with these days.
Ahead, heroin on the roads, the growing problem of drugged driving.
Heroin abuse impacts all of us. You might not think that you know anybody who uses it or may not have been impacted by a crime caused by heroin, but have you ever thought about the driver of the car in the lane next to you?
Dude, what is your problem?
Why are you hammering like that?
Right, your kid is in the car.
This video went viral. It captured a man driving erratically along the shoulder of I-75 in Mason. Another example of how drug driving has become a major problem.
I don't think the average person realizes who they're on the roads with these days.
The examples are numerous. Along I-75 South, Cincinnati police arrested a woman who crashed her car along the highway.
For an unknown reason, a car hit the concrete divider. The police got there and found out that it was a drug OVI. The person just lost control of their vehicle because of the drugs.
Lieutenant Bruce Hoffbauer has been working with the Cincinnati Police Department for more than 30 years. He sees firsthand the effects drugs, particularly heroin, have on motorists.
And the effects are so quick, different than the alcohol, that as soon as they ingest it, they get behind the wheel, or they are already behind the wheel, and then they crash.
More examples. Remember this video capturing a woman weaving all over 275 in Anderson? Or how about the husband and wife duo who were driving along I-74? According to police, the wife injected her husband with heroin while he was driving and with children in the car. And then there's this, a suspected overdose driver crashing into New Emmanuel Baptist Church. Then another on Harrison Avenue. And again, I-75 slowed to a crawl during afternoon rush hour when police say a heroin addict rolled his car while shooting up.
They get in their car, they use it, they OD, they crash, and then we get involved.
It's a growing problem. It's happening all around us. So we as motorists need to be more focused than ever before.
Heroin, the fight to save our families, continues after this break. Stay right here. So one way that Cincinnati police and other tri-state law enforcement agencies are fighting the problem of heroin overdoses is with the drug Narcan. Now, it's difficult to watch, but take a look at this video of a woman. She's ODing from heroin, and the drug Narcan literally brings her back to life. Now, many local and nationwide law enforcement agencies and first responders are using Narcan as part of their arsenal to revive overdose victims. Critics say Narcan enables users, though, to continue the habit.
Got movement in the bedroom. Go open the door.
Claremont County attacking the problem, going after the folks that they believe are selling the heroin. You're looking at video from a drug sweep that we brought you back in July. Deputies said they rounded up 13 people, all of them suspected heroin traffickers across across the village of Felicity.
Narcan really is a topic of debate. A lot of people are very much against it.
Yep.
Others are very much for it. Well, county officials say they have seen a sharp rise in new drug dealers setting up shop. Fox 19 Now morning anchor Rob Williams sat down with Claremont County Prosecutor Vince Ferris to get a look at how hard heroin's hitting there.
Heroin, it doesn't care where you live or how much money you make. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, Hispanic, or Asian. Heroin is affecting families across the board, not only turning people into addicts, but also into criminals. Joining me this morning with his perspective is Claremont County Prosecutor Vince Ferris. Sir, first of all, thank you very much for joining us.
Glad to be here.
How has this clogged up your office in Claremont County?
I would say of our felony indictments, at least 75% of them have heroin as some type of factor in the charge.
Wow, and so how does that make, I'm sure that would make your job much more difficult, correct? How so?
Well, we have a lot of cases, obviously. We have the heroin possession, heroin trafficking cases, but how that affects the average citizen in Claremont County is the people that are trying to support their heroin habit. I would say at least 90% of our home burglaries are based on people supporting their heroin habit.
Give me an insight into Claremont County. I've often heard that, especially east of Hamilton County, that's where we're seeing the spikes in terms of heroin. How is it in Claremont County?
Claremont County is one of the worst in the state.
Why do you think that's so?
Nearness to a large population. Most of our heroin comes directly from Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Also, you have easy access through 275. So I think that's probably the basis of it.
Okay, let's talk about this. In terms of getting people after they get addicted and commit crimes, I understand that component. What about going after those doctors that overprescribe, those pill mills, as they refer to them? I heard of one in like Portsmouth and some other areas. What are you doing to combat that part of the problem?
We haven't had a lot of involvement in that type of thing. We certainly will always look at that. That's a very difficult thing to do.
Sure.
And usually that has occurred well before we see the person on a heroin addiction. They may have gotten hooked on heroin because they got hooked on opiate pills from a prior accident or something of that nature. We usually see it down the line, so it's hard to backtrack something like that.
Do you think heroin is different than other drugs? Do you think this has more of a tendency to turn people into drug addicts than criminals? Why or why not?
Heroin is so highly addictive.
Yeah.
Most drugs take a long time to obtain a substance abuse addiction. Heroin, from what I have heard, sometimes one use can cause it. It is so highly addictive, and then to support that habit, which is quite often a daily habit, people have to, they're committing crimes, they're breaking into homes, they're shoplifting, things of that nature to support that habit.
As a county prosecutor, what would you tell families that are watching right now, maybe with their teenage kids, what would you tell them in terms of the heroin epidemic?
It's everywhere. We are seeing it some in our schools, certainly in a lot of the young people, and it goes right on up. A couple of things. Sometimes, like you hinted on, this starts with pain pill abuse.
Right.
Sometimes kids get in their parents' medicine cabinets and get started on this. Most of the time we see it out on the street directly with heroin. And the problem is it's not like alcohol or most drugs where it takes a long period of usage and abuse to become addicted. Heroin can be one mistake, one time, and you're in trouble.
Yeah, but do you think this is it though? I mean, people don't go up and decide, you know what, I'm gonna mess up my life and I'm gonna become addicted to heroin and then I'm gonna turn to a life of crime. It's a series of questionable decisions that led them down a wrong path. Don't you think it starts with that one questionable decision?
Yes, it does. And most of the people that are abusing heroin and are hooked on heroin really hate what they've become.
Sure.
Before I was a prosecutor, I was a private attorney representing people that were hooked on heroin and committed burglaries. Many of them told me they hate what they've become. They're stealing from their family. They're stealing from friends. They just can't kick the habit.
That's how strong the addiction is.
It is.
How do you think we're doing in battling this epidemic in Claremont County? Do you think we're even close to turning the corner?
No.
No.
No. Our rates of heroin abuse have gone up over the last few years. Our charges have gone up. The supply is still there. It's still plentiful. It's still cheap. It's there.
Do you think there's any hope on the horizon?
I don't see anything on the immediate future, no.
All right. And it's important for parents to sit down with their kids and have an honest, frank discussion about what heroin can do to a life.
One incident of peer pressure can lead to an addiction.
That's well said, and we're going to let that be the last word. Claremont County Prosecutor Vince Ferris, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And good luck with the fight.
All right, thank you very much.
We have much more straight ahead right here on Fox 19 Now.